Today's lesson is going to be multiplying radicals. Now, one of the things that we talked about and that y'all had a quiz on Tuesday was adding and subtracting. So in order to add or subtract, they have to have the same radicand and same index. So in other words, if you tried to add the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3, can you do that?
No.
No. You cannot add it. But you can multiply these. Now, if you'll look at my notes up here, you multiply the outside of the radical times the outside. What's assumed to be on the outside of each one of those?
1.
A 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. And that would be square root of 12. Now, what I need you to do is break this down using your factor tree. So that would be 2 and 6, 2 and 3. You have a pair of 2's and a 3 that has to stay under the radical. So 2 times 1 is 2, square root of 3. Okay. Now, I want you to try a couple of them for me.
Was that answer 2 and like 3 and 5?
All right, try those for me. Okay, so let's look at this. There are 1's on the outside. 3 times 15 is 45. If I were to break that down, that's 3 and 15, 3 and 5. So how do I simplify the square root of 45?
3 square roots of 5.
3 square roots of 5. Okay? What questions do you have about this first example?
Wouldn't you just, on all of them, you take the first number, see, like on that one, it'd be
No,
3, and then,
no.
what?
We're going to get bigger numbers. Okay? This happens to work out on these. So this is the square root of what? 75, which breaks down to 3 and 25, and that breaks down to 5 and 5. So what's that going to be? 5 square roots of 3. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when you have numbers in front. Okay, so you see that each one of these has a coefficient. So we're multiplying outside times outside. What's -2 times 4? Everybody look up here. Outside times outside. So that's -8. Square root of inside times inside. So that's going to break down to 2 and 100. Now, some of y'all might know the square root of 100 off the top of your head. That's going to be 2 and 50. That's going to be 2 and 25. That's going to be 5 and 5. So I have a pair of 2s. This one does not. And then I have a pair of 5s. Now, everybody be careful. Some of y'all missed this on your quiz on Tuesday. 5 times 2 is 10 times -8. Square root of 2. Okay, I want you to try this one. Yes.
So does mine still work the same? I just
Okay. If you were absent yesterday, I mean not absent yesterday, but anyway, have not taken the quiz from yesterday. That's that, y'all too. Okay, okay. And tomorrow, so you take it tomorrow, okay? Okay, so we've got 4 times 1 is 4. 3 times 18 is 54. So that breaks down to 2 and 27. 3 and 9. 3 and 3. The 2 does not have a pair. I have a pair of 3s, and then I have a 3 left over. So what is the only thing leaving the radical? Please draw your arrow up here. 3 times 4 is 12. What has to stay under the radical? 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, go ahead. Here are several problems.
what was that?
12 square roots of 6.
Does it work the same if you break it down before you multiply? Because I did that on accident and I still got 12.
It should. Yeah, it should. Okay, copy these down, please.
Is that thing all for you or?
All right, let's look at the answers to these. So square root of 2 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 12, and that breaks down to what? How can you simplify that? 2 square roots of 3. You only have one pair of 2, so you pull 1 2 to the outside of the radical. So this is the square root of 150, which breaks down to 2 and 75, 3 and 25, 5 and 5. So, tell me how this works. How it simplifies.
5
Square roots of
3.
6. 2 times 3. Okay? Now, let's look at the square root of 7 times the square root of 21. Shh. That is the square root of 147. So 2 won't go into it, but 3 will go into it 49 times. 49 breaks down to 7 and 7. So it's 7 square roots of 3. Okay, number 4. 5 times 4 is 20. Square roots of 60. That's 2 and 30. 2 and 15. 3 and 5. I have a pair of 2s. Move it to the outside. So that becomes 40 square roots of 15. Now let's look at the last one. -5 times -4 is 20. Square root of 12. So that's 2 and 6, 2 and 3. Move that to the outside. 40 square roots of 3.
It's not, we don't gotta move it to the outside.
When it has a pair, the rule of the house is you get to leave when you have a pair. Go with a buddy. But if you don't, you have to stay under the radicals. Because you're taking the square root. So you're looking for groups of 2. Okay? If you're taking the cube root, you'd be looking for groups of 3. So when you have a group of 2, then that pulls on the outside. Okay? All right, now the next one, y'all label this distribution. And it works the same way.
Where's the bag?
Okay, write this one down. So when you distribute, you multiply, correct?
Yes.
Now these are not going to ever necessarily go to one term. You'll understand what I mean in just a minute. But you know how you added before and they came to one term. These, most of the time, will not. So you're still multiplying outside times outside, so those are assumed what? 1. So that's the square root of 15 plus the square root of, what's 3 times 3? 9. Now 15, does it break down with any pairs?
3 and 5.
3 and 5, do I have any pairs?
No.
So they stay under the radical as the square root of 15. What is the square root of 9? Y'all know that. 3. Can these be combined?
No.
No. They have to have the same. This is not 3 square root of 15. Okay? So now look at this one. Write this one down.
Wait, that's the answer?
That's the answer. Right there. I told you it will not likely ever go to one nice little term.
So, what about like the house?
Do what now?
What about the house on the 3?
The square root
In
of
the
9.
square root of 9, there's nothing left under the radical. It's 3 times 3.
Well, I know, okay.
Okay? All right, now everybody look up here.
Oh.
Now, shh. I need you to look up and pay attention. This has a coefficient, it has a radical. What is the assumed coefficient right here? 1. Now this one does not have a radical. But if you are a visual person and you want to see it, what could I put here? Square root of 1. Because does that change anything? No. So if you're ever multiplying a radical times a whole number, if you want to put the square root of 1 behind it, that is fine. So now let's work it. 2 times 1, square root of 5 times 6, 30, plus 2 times 2, square root of 5. Now let's see if the 30 breaks down. 2 and 15, 3 and 5. Do I have a pair of 2s? Pair of 3s? Pair of 5s. So I multiply everything, so if there's nothing to pull out, then this stays the same. So do we know that the square root of 5 does not break down?
Yes.
Yes. So that is your answer. Okay, I'm going to give you several to work now.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, I'm going to let y'all work those. And these are about as difficult as they get.
Good.
What now? That's on number 2, that's a 6. Net square root of 3, parentheses, negative 5, square root of 10, plus square root of 6. Are we done? Or are we still working? Raise your hand if you're working. Okay. Shh. I still have some people working.
I need to find out where paint helmets. And also, there's 4 kids, and I need to, if we are not doing something, I need to list like 2 minutes early. There's 2 of them are in bed, and they can come out by where I live. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go over these. Guys, stop. Shh. Guys, be quiet. Okay. Let's look at the first one. Now, what are you missing here that you might want to add?
Square root of 1 behind the 2.
All right, the square root of 1 right here. Now, you don't have to add that, but a lot of times people want to multiply and miss that right there. So 2 times 2 is 4 square roots of plus 2 square roots of 18. Now, this is in simplest form, but 18 can be broken down to 2 and 9, 3 and 3. So if you'll draw your arrow to the outside, you won't mistakenly not multiply. We okay? Okay. So I've got 4 square roots of 3 plus 6 square roots of 2. Good. Now, what is assumed out in front right here? And what is right here? So now all of them have coefficients and all of them have radicals. So 1 times negative 5 3 times 10 plus 1 times 1 square root of 18. Now, we already worked on the square root of 30. It is 2 times 3 times 5. Are there any pairs? 30 does not break down. So let's break down the 19, which we just did. Bring it on the outside to keep you from making that mistake. So that's plus 3 square roots of 2. So those are your 2 answers on that one. All right, now let's look at number 3. Multiply outside times outside. What's negative 2 times negative 3? Square, no, not negative. Okay, 15 times 3 is 45. Now, this one is negative 2 times positive 3, square root of,
75.
okay, let's break down the 45, 3 and 15, 3 and 5. So you have a pair of 3s. Draw your arrow to the outside. So what's going to be the coefficient of the first term?
18.
18 square roots of 5. I'm going to break this down to 3 and 25. 5 and 5. There's my pair. Draw my arrow. What's going to be the coefficient of the second term?
Negative 30.
Negative 30 square roots of 3. And you are done. Okay? All right.